the beginning of our city council meeting. We good? Do we need to start over?
No, you're good.
Anyway, welcome to our city council meeting this evening on the 9th of April of 2024. We appreciate you being with us this evening. We will begin tonight asking Councilmember Pulver to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after he determines if he'd like to give us an invocation or a thought this evening. That's his call. Councilmember Pulver.
If you indulge me, I'm going to do a little of both. So I have this old book that I used to, Book of Knowledge from the Air Force Academy. Anyways, there's two short quotes that I thought were awesome and relevant. One is from General George C. Marshall. There is no limit to the good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. And another good one from George S. Patton, another general. Never tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do, and they will surprise you with their ingenuity. I tell that to my wife all the time, but she doesn't listen. So anyways, invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so very much for bringing us all together to discuss city business, and we're so grateful for all those that participate and help out, and as a city councilman, and all the things that come to the job, and we're so grateful for all the things that all the council and the mayor and all the city staff do, and we appreciate it so much as a city itself, as a citizen myself, that we want to make sure that everybody stays healthy and happy. And as we carry on this meeting, that we can do so and with respect. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Appreciate those thoughts and the invocation and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to mention Councilmember Watson has joined us online. She'll be with us for the first portion of the meeting, and then she has a family commitment that she'll be taking care of. So thank you, Councilmember Watson, for joining us. Let's move on to our agenda. Do we have any conflicts of interest this evening that anyone would like to address in regards to our agenda? Okay, I see none. We'll move on to item number 2. We'll ask Mr. Dylan Hill, who is our Public Works Inspector, to present a few items of business to us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First item on the agenda is the conditional acceptance of Northview Estates Phase 8. I have completed the conditional inspection on this subdivision and found the improvements to be up to city code and standard. There's 45 lots in this subdivision, approximately 4,200 north, 100 east. It was recorded in June of 2022. The storm drain, land drain, water, sewer, street lights, street signs, and about half of the sidewalk are installed. Last January, when there was all the rain and runoff, there was some improvements that failed, but that's what's extended this to now, is they've got all those repaired and completed. So is my recommendation to conditionally accept those improvements and start the 1-year warranty process.
So Dylan, would you like me to ask my normal question, or just want to answer it?
With regards to the ADA ramps, they did have to do them, a couple of them twice. The slopes weren't to the standards, but now they are good. So
Good man, Dylan. Okay, you've heard the recommendation of Mr. Hill. He's looking for conditional acceptance of the Northview Estate Subdivision 8. Do we have a motion to approve that recommendation on the conditional acceptance?
Mayor,
Councilmember Barker,
I move that we approve conditional acceptance on Northview Estates Phase 8.
thank you. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Pulver. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously. Mr. Hill, you have another item of business for us too, I believe.
Yeah, the second item on the agenda is the final approval for Majestic View subdivision. This is based on the recommendation from our city engineer, Eric Casperson. They have been found to be, all the improvements are up to city code and standards. Majestic View Townhomes, it's down right just north of the cannery. 30 townhomes in this subdivision. It was recorded in December of 2018. And I came to the city council in December of 2021 to get conditional acceptance. The overdue conditional warranty period was due to a street light that needed to be installed and a paved access. Those are now done and up to the city codes and standards. So it is the recommendation of the city engineer to provide final approval for the subdivision and the improvements.
You concur with that, Mr. Hill?
They got it done. It took a while, but
All right, thank you. Any questions, Councilmember Walker, or do you have a motion?
Is this phase 1 and phase 2 combined?
so this is only for the phase 1, which phase 2, they have started construction, but they have not recorded that or anything. That's a whole separate project for the,
That's to the north.
yeah, just for the north, about 10 more townhomes going in there.
Thank you, Councilmember Barker. Any other questions?
Just-
Councilmember Dalpass?
Just a curiosity, there's like parking spots on that north side of that road. Why aren't they on this map? In that little townhome subdivision, there's a set of parking, about 8 stalls or so. Just curious why it's not on the map,
Over,
right there.
I might have grabbed the wrong drawing of it,
Okay.
so. But yeah, the street light was on that corner of the hammerhead, so. Yeah, I know those like 8 lots.
And I think technically this is a private street. And so it's still, we still show private streets, but we don't technically accept those improvements. They're owned by the HOA.
So that's a good question, Dylan, on a private situation like this. What improvements are we accepting? Sidewalk, curb and gutter?
So, yeah, in here, I believe we're only responsible for the water meters themselves, the meter pit. And the street signs are private. You could tell that with the blue street sign instead of a green street sign. I believe we take care of the sewer. That's a health department thing. That's why there's that access for it. So
So is that what we're accepting then as final approval? Are those things that you just mentioned?
correct. Like the street light's not ours. It doesn't go in our on our bill or anything.
Just wanted to clarify that. Any other questions for Mr. Hill? I see none, so I would be looking for a motion to approve the final acceptance of Majestic View subdivision as recommended by Mr. Hill. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we accept the final acceptance for Majestic View subdivision.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Dalpas. Is there a second to his motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilmember Watson, you good with that?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 4. This is an announcement required by law. We will be having a budget amendment public hearing to be held on the 23rd of April of 2024 here in this building. That will be posted on our website prior to the meeting. But just wanted to make that announcement so that we are in compliance with that ordinance, that statute. But I would like to have a motion by the council to approve the setting of that budget amendment public hearing for the date of April 23rd, 2024, if you're in agreement with that.
Mayor, I move that we approve the April 23rd, 2024 budget amendment public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a
Second.
Second by Councilmember Pulver. Are there any questions on that? Jamie has put together some information on that, but I'm sure will be shared with you shortly if it hasn't already. So all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any further discussion? Motion passes unanimously.
Aye. Sorry, I'm late.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Watson. Now we'll enter into the segment of our meeting for public comments. Those who would like to comment, please step up here to the rostrum. State your name, and if you're a resident of North Ogden City, and if you would limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes, that'd be very much appreciated.
My name's Dan Hallisey, and I live over on 1812 North, 150 East in North Ogden. And it happens that I live right across from the stream that goes behind the lodge. There are some concerns, and I'm afraid there's a possible liability involved there, because the rail that was put there by the lodge, while it looks nice, it's not very safe because they have kids from the Prominence Point. And they come down and crawl down to that water or get into the water. And if they ever hit that, that's sticky mud down there. They could lose their lives. So between not having an appropriate fence to protect these kids from that situation, we also have a situation with unleashed dogs. And those unleashed dogs run around. And of course, the more they're in a territory, the more they decide they claim it. So the older people that are in the lodge, I'm concerned about the fact that they could be bit or have their skin tore or whatever, because they like to come over and watch the ducks, which is another thing that the kids like to throw rocks and sticks at. So I'm hoping that we could maybe take a look at getting a better fence system put in, keep the kids from drowning, but also maybe put up some signs for the dogs that are off leash running around. And that pretty much is what my concerns are.
Do you have any questions for Dan? I appreciate receiving your correspondence and your willingness to come and attend the meeting tonight. John, who owns the creek and that? Who is responsible for the issues? I know on the leash law, and I think you and I have had a conversation about enforcement of that in our city. It's become probably a little bit more lax in regards to the leash law. I know you've, I think, talked with community services about that, or we'll talk to them about it, one of the two. But just so we have an understanding, the council has an understanding, Mr. Halsey has that. What is the?
So it's kind of one of those trifectas, meaning that there's some ownership. The lodge technically owns the ground where the creek runs and the trail is. They, as the developer, installed the trail, including the pole fence that's there to separate the two. But it's all governed by the Army Corps of Engineers. So they're the ones that get to say what happens on anything on the west side of the trail, including the bank and the fence. I think they're the ones who spec'd the split rail fence that's there, as a kind of as a delineation between area that's maintained and area that isn't, for habitat. But liability wise, it will more than likely fall on the landowner, which would be the lodge. Although with the city having an easement for the public trail there, it's likely we'd be involved in any sort of a lawsuit if there ever was one. There are some provisions in government immunity that would help us though in that situation.
Could we contact the lodge and have you had a chance to contact
Yeah.
them?
I have. I wrote I called the lodge myself and talked to one of the people that were over there that was going to take that to their boss. I've also made the effort of getting a hold of Prominence Point and try to get a hold of the HOA about the other issue with the dogs and whatnot. So it's not that they're not aware of what the situation is. It's more of a situation of it's going to take a combined effort to try to resolve that issue before some harm comes to either the elderly or the children.
I did see a notice from the HOA as a reminder to people in the area to make sure they keep their dogs on leash. Doesn't always work when you give that. John, maybe we could contact the lodge and let them know that Dan came tonight and expressed a concern and see if we can help maybe push the issue along, since it's kind of an easement and it's there. Just see if we can help.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you
much.
very
Appreciate it.
much.
Appreciate your time.
Any other comments? John, anyone online? I don't see anyone else online other than Christina. Reed,
Hi.
how are you?
Oh, boy, that sun gets you. My name is Reed Miller from North Ogden. Hey, I want to comment just on last week or last time we met. And there was an issue with the Big O tires. And the situation is this. We all know that the responsibility, main role of government is to protect our rights, especially our unalienable rights. Those are life, liberty, and property. Liberty is the free agency a person has to do things according to moral principles, moral agency. The other one is property. That property is sacred to people. And as government officials, we have a right to protect that property. So last time when Big O said, hey, this is my property, this is my property, let me do the way I want with my property. And we only had one person, Mr. Barker, who raised his hand to sustain a person's property. And of course, we could make rationalizations and we could make excuses. And yet, I want you be aware of in the future, and especially that property and agency, moral agency, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone, are vital for government officials and to protect the rights of those individuals without any hesitation. I mean, we had hesitation, oh, we're not going to do anything. But I just ask that you be very aware of those things. There's going to be different things that are going to come up in the future with regard to those basic rights. And who knows, we might say, yeah, but it's for the best of the city. But what about the individual citizen? Okay, thanks.
Anyone else like to comment before we move on with our agenda? Okay, I thank you for your comments. Appreciate you being with us this evening. We're now going to move on to item number 6 on our agenda, which is somewhat, I guess we could say, the start of our budget season this year. I know that the council members have spent time with the departments that they're involved with, but let's start this evening with administrative services. Bryce Nelson.
Okay, good evening, council. So I'm going to present on the budget for administration. And then we have Katie with Human Resources and Ryan with the city recorders. My department consists of me, the administrative services manager, city treasurer, and then we have Ryan over the recorders and Katie over human resources. Okay, so for my budget, I broke it out into 4 groups. So we have subscriptions and memberships, which for the whole fiscal year will be $1,465. These go for all the subscriptions that John has, and then we have our Utah Business License Association, the manager, the City Manager Association, the ICMA dues, the Utah Bar. There's a couple other subscriptions in there, but those are the main highlights. The next category, we have travel and training, which is $11,000. These go to basically all the softwares that we have. So we have iWorks in there, which is our building permits. We also have some other workflow things through there. We have Cassell, which is our main accounting software. It's all of our transactions, cash receipting. Then we have some IT training for me, and then we have our Utah City Managers Conference for John Call. And then the next kind of block is office supplies and telephones. This covers things like paper, envelopes, staples, 2 cell phones that we have in my department, and that number is $2,870. The last block is services not classified in small equipment. And for this next year, we have $9,500 in that category. And this includes the city manager contingency, computer replacements, things like that. So the budget for next year is a decrease of 6.4% for my department. And that mostly is accredited to this fiscal year that we're currently in. We had a couple of bigger equipment items that we had in the budget, and with those being done, we could take that money back out. So the administrative services is basically 2 different departments in itself. So we have the positions here at City Hall, which consists of city manager and attorney, city treasurer, administrative services manager, and 3 full-time administrative assistants. And they do building permit technician, business licenses, office coverage, front counter, parks, and rec support staff. And then additionally, we have the enterprise fund administrative assistants, which consists of 1 full-time employee and 2 part-time employees. And these employees help out with public works. They offer support for those departments and administrative needs, including utility billing, the phones, water, sewer, storms, solid waste billing, and then questions in regards to those. So the goals from last year, the first goal was invest, protect city assets while maximizing returns, and to just report back on that. So we did set up that investments with meter public funds, and that's been going really well. The reporting is fantastic. We're able to keep a close eye on it and monitor it. The next goal is to research technology to improve and streamline processes. And with that, we did the research and now we are budgeting for the money. So we did the research. Now the goal for this year will be to implement those processes. So we'll be implementing some online forms to hopefully streamline those processes. Right now it's a PDF and you gotta download it, fill it out, and then email that in. It's not the best and can be complicated and isn't the most secure. Then we had training, and for that we had staff participate in a lot of free trainings that we were able to find. And then just training as we've seen, you know, mistakes happen, we're able to train as those come up. And then we had educate residents on how to better utilize city services. So my team and I have taken a lot of opportunities to help any resident who comes in and sit down with them, walk them through the website, show them how processes work, show them how to best utilize those services that the city offers. And it's been great. It doesn't get used a whole lot, but when residents do need it, we are here to help them. So our goals for next year will be to digitize forms. As I mentioned, we're purchasing a software so we can do this ourselves. A lot of places, they'll charge you $150 a month per form, and we have a lot of forms on our website. So what we did instead is we took a bigger chunk of money. We're setting it aside so that we can just buy a software to build the forms ourselves. So we can have as many forms as we want, doesn't change the cost. And then I think Ryan will also touch on it. It'll be a software that'll impact a lot of different departments across the city. And then a lot of our other goals are kind of the same. We're going to keep researching for more software to try and streamline the processes and make it easier for residents. Training never really stops, especially when our goal is customer service and to help the best we can. There's always improvements that can be made, and especially when you're looking for those opportunities. And then lastly, to educate and simplify the online services, and we'll talk about that also after this. The next agenda item will help with that one also. So that is it for mine. Is there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you tracking the incremental value of our investments versus over what we would get with the PTIF?
I'm not tracking it, but it's something that can easily be identified, and we can, if the council would like to see a comparison, or Mayor, if you'd like to, that is something we could easily put down and show it.
Yeah, I think that's important to see that we're getting the value from the effort we're making
Yeah.
there. One other question, and you may have mentioned this and I missed it. You talked about the city manager's contingency fund. I know that's nothing new, but what is that amount again?
I don't have the amount exactly. I think it's 5,000. And that's for just anything that the city manager sees fit. So it doesn't always get used, but if there is something that comes up, he has that money there and we don't have to do a budget amendment.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I just think also we ought to track that on an ongoing basis, and I think we somewhat do.
Yeah, in fact, the 2 years that we've had it, we actually haven't used it. You know, and Mayor and I are usually on the plan was that we would talk about it before we use that, but hasn't been used the last 2 years.
Okay, good information. But Bryce, I think it would be good, particularly I think with the legislation that was just passed, where it could be a disproportionate burden on our city, where the legislature has now taken money from the PTIF at a lower rate to subsidize first-time home buyers, which I'm just saying that could be proportionally affected for those cities who have money in there and versus those who don't. So I do think we ought to track the value of our incremental effort on investing, and I think we'll find it to be positive. So, okay. Council, do you have any questions then? If not, we'll move on to the city recorder. Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So I want to begin my portion of my budget presentation by highlighting the exciting decrease that my department has. As you can see, there is a decrease of 34.4%. That is attributed to a few different things. One of them being that we are now doing the minutes in-house. Myself and the deputy recorder are doing the city council meeting minutes as well as the planning commission meeting minutes. That was budgeted for $2,000. I'd like to point out that in years past, we've spent significantly more than that on the minutes. In 2022, the total that we paid the contractor we were paying to do the minutes, we paid $10,945. In 2023, the total we paid out was $7,300. And now you get me doing the minutes. So yay.
Had a really good job, by the way, I must point out.
Thank you, Mayor. Another significant tribute to the decrease is that we had signed a contract with Granicus to help us do meeting minutes with their recording and time stamping with the minutes. After looking into that and trying to implement that software, it wasn't speaking to our software very well. And we've just found more cost-effective workarounds. And so we got rid of that as well, which was $5,513. So there's a significant budget decrease in the recorder's department. You'll see that there is small equipment budgeted for $2,500. The deputy recorder is due for a new computer get up this year with a new PC and monitors. The subscription and memberships kind of ties into the travel and training, so I will highlight those together. DIMRA, the Davis Weber Morgan Recorders Association, is an association that both Joyce and I belong to, and they have monthly lunch and learns that we try to attend. And it also has vast networking capabilities where we can contact these recorders for all of their knowledge and experience, which has been hugely beneficial for me as I'm new in this role as the recorder. UMCA, the Utah Municipal Clerks Association, they have a training in the spring and the fall. I just recently attended the one in the spring, and I received valuable information, job-specific training in that training that I just got back from. And so that's really valuable for us to continue our membership with. And then there's also the IMCA, which includes a certification. And again, that's just valuable training, job-specific information as the role as a municipal city recorder. And then the travel and training, like I said, there's local training I attend, and then those 2 conferences in the spring and the fall for the Utah Municipal Clerks Association. Then, of course, there's business-related costs for office supplies, phone, postage, and for public notice postings and mailings that we need to send out, for example, like annexations and things of that nature. The goals for 2024. It is my personal quest to get us a new website for our city. And I know it's been kind of on everybody's mind for a few years, but that's something that is really important to me as a recorder because it's my responsibility to ensure the integrity and accessibility of city records and municipal proceedings for the benefit of the community and local governments. So with this, it's going to improve and streamline transparency of all of our official records. It's going to improve and streamline the process of agenda and records management, leading to efficiency for all. And that's it. That's my presentation. Any questions for me?
Just to clarify, none of these budgets have considered any adjustment in salaries or benefits, correct? So this is just everything except that. I just want to clarify that. Okay.
Mayor.
Councilmember Pulver, did you have a
Just
question?
something that the Citizen Budget Committee, went through a lot of stuff on this, and just wanted to get some kudos to the fact that not only doing awesome on the minutes, but I think the other thing is that they're pushing technology, like she was saying, and then also the biggest thing, not biggest thing, that they're moving away from the paper, which I don't know if anybody still reads, but so that's another reduction as well that I think did last year, but I think is something that I don't know if people knew about, but that's something that has also gone down. So pushing technology really has driven down a lot of the costs when it comes to doing what her job is. And that's, to me, that's one of the big significant things. And it's across kind of a lot of the other things, including trying to reduce paper, which I think is something the city has been doing awesome on. Reducing the amount of printers so you don't get tempted to go print something. I think that was one of the things we were talking about before. So that's, I don't get too crazy on that, but it was good.
I think also we need to remember that the growth in our city, it is good to start planning for automation now that will make us more efficient so that we aren't increasing employee count proportionally to the growth in the city. And I think the time to prepare for that is not after it happens. It's one of the things I call soft infrastructure. So I think it's important. Just like to welcome Jackie, Paige Hamlin, Susan Kilborn, and Susan Clements, who have joined us online. So we appreciate that. Okay. Katie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is my HR budget. It's also has decreased, not as much as the other two, but it has decreased by 0.6%, which is $125. So that's exciting news. So mine is broken down, same as theirs. I've got my subscriptions and my memberships, and that's for my SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resource Management. And then alongside that is my Northern Utah HR Association, another really great association I'm part of. We do the lunch and learns, great networking. And it's really, really helpful to be able to reach out to our neighboring cities and communities and get their information that they're doing in their city. So that's a very valuable program to be a part of. The travel and training, I've got my WeCon, which is the Work Elevated Conference that's held annually. That's a local conference. It is held down in, this next year will be down in Provo, so that will be a stay down there. But and then just local trainings related to HR topics such as benefits, benefit management, retirement, and so forth. So we've got our office supplies at 500, the postage at 100. And then for computer services and software, this one has gone up by $1,500. I would like to implement a new software, a new training program. It's through Niche Academy. And basically what this program is going to do, it's $1,500. It's for all of our employees to use for the entire year. That allows us to have as many administrators as we want on that plan. But what this will do is this will allow us to do all of our required, sexual harassment, ethics, things like that. That will all be on there. We can do that training. I know John does like to do these trainings in person. So we'll still do that for the most part for that ethics and harassment training. But for those that either start later on or miss that, we will have a way for them to be able to watch those trainings. The other good thing about this program is it is really beneficial to all of our coaches, volunteers. They've got 70 trainings that are loaded into the program as it is, but we can make our own trainings and create based on our city information. So I think it's going to be a really great program if this gets approved. Got the telephone for $360, and then personnel related costs is at $17,825. The reason that things have gone up, we have increased, when we do our team building, but the cost of goods is increasing. So we've increased the personnel related cost just to cover that. That includes the annual labor law posters that we are required to have for all of our city buildings. That includes our employee of the month, employee of the year, our peak awards, and all of our employee recognition, our team building, and then our ACA federal e-filing that we do annually. And then this year I do need a scanner. So I put $300 in for a small equipment fee. So really quickly, the goals met my goals last year were, the first one was to recruit. We successfully hired 12 full-time employees this last year. We've revamped job descriptions across departments, ensuring consistency and highlighting growth opportunities. And we've done this by incorporating percentage-based increases tied to certification, education, and experience. So right now, John, myself, and Dave are putting together a spreadsheet that's basically any employee can look at this sheet at any time to see what they need to do to grow in their position, or if at some point they want to progress to a new role in the city, they have all the information that they'll need to successfully do that. My second goal was to retain employees, and as of April 9th today, we've had 3 retirements and 4, and it's listed as voluntary and voluntary terminations because that's how it's listed in our system. But basically, we've had 7 that have left us this year. Last year, we had 2 retirements and 10 voluntary and voluntary terminations for a total of 12. And the year before that, we had 13 voluntary and voluntary people leave us. So we're on a good trend. We're moving in a positive direction. I think that our commitment to positive morale has contributed to staff retention and reduced turnover. We continue to prioritize listening to employee needs, building trust, and maintaining a safe and supportive environment, resulting in improved retention rates and fewer terminations compared to the previous years, as you can see. My last goal for last year was to build morale, and the high employee morale boosts workplace productivity and efficiency. We continue to achieve this with regular team building gatherings, recognition for outstanding work, promoting teamwork, and maintaining open communication. Excuse me. So this year's goals are to our performance management, employee engagement, satisfaction, and well-being, and then also process optimization. So the first one real quick, we're just to set clear performance expectations, providing regular feedback. And I'm working on implementing a new annual evaluation process. My hope is to streamline the process, again, get away from paper copies, which we've been doing, and make it more so that department heads will be continually able to update progress reports, highlight the things that employees are doing great, and work on things that employees need to do better to improve their role. The next one is employee engagement, satisfaction, and well-being. A lot of this was focused on again last year, but really just engaged and satisfied employees are more likely to be productive and committed to North Ogden City. So just continue that open communication to monitor key performance indicators, which is the employee productivity, turnover rates, and employee satisfaction. I know that we're big here in promoting work-life balance. I know North Ogden City is huge and fit with family, and we want to make sure that our employees understand that we value that and that we want them to value that as well. Social connections foster a sense of belonging through team building, social events, and opportunities for collaboration. And then again, just recognition and appreciation. My last goal is process optimization. And this is to define clear objectives for HR process optimization, such as reducing processing time, improving accuracy, and areas for improvement. A lot of our forms and a lot of our processes have been in place for years and years, and that doesn't mean that they're bad or that they're wrong, but times are changing. We're trying to move digitally. So my goal is to work on that and to optimize the best that we can do there. I also want to work on standardizing procedures to ensure consistency and to reduce onboarding errors, and also implement new training, the new training software to help with onboarding, annual training requirements, etc. Any questions?
Councilmember Pulver?
Just some of the good things that we've been chatting on the budget committee as well as, I mean, in the past years, I think we've kind of hammered this pretty hard, but human resources is something fairly new to the city, the department itself. And I think it's been doing a crazy good job to do what she's trying to do, foster a good work environment. And I really don't have, I mean, that, to me, there was a lot of issues with, we can cut this, cut that. And in the end, I think everybody so far, every citizen so far that's gone through this sees that that's a good thing and not something that is superfluous to the whole process.
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget that it costs you less to retain a team member than it does to retrain and hire. So I think, monitoring turnover rates is important and trying to get our hands around that and reduce it. I do have a question. I was a little bit confused. We hired 12 full-time employees.
Correct.
I saw the retirements. I was unable to reconcile that in my mind of what the net increase was. I know some of that was replacement of those who left and retired. Some were positions that had been unfilled for a period of time.
Correct.
What's our net full-time equivalent comparison?
You would ask me that on the spot.
Okay, I'll ask you that tomorrow. Then I withdraw my question.
I will get that information for you.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
You should have suspected I'd
My
ask.
math skills were better. I wish I could pop that off
Oh,
in my
no,
head.
that's fine. I just think it's important for our citizens to know, how we're trying to manage the growth in the city and prepare for it. So
Sure.
I think that's important. Any other questions for Katie? I will have a general question at the end, so it won't be too technical. I think you could probably get that. Not just at you, for the whole group. Okay, thank you so much for that presentation. Mr. Hess, I believe you'll be addressing planning and building. Is that correct?
Mayor,
Yes.
I was just wondering if I could just butt in really quick before the next presentation and have a comment.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Watson, I didn't know. I thought maybe an angel was visiting the place or something. Okay, go ahead.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to Bryce, Ryan, and Katie. I spoke with them last week and was able to get their presentation in advance and ask a lot of questions. And they just have been really thorough and put forth a lot of effort to save money and to be conscientious of the budget, but also provide really great substance for our community and the jobs that they do. And really excited about working with them as liaison and hearing about the details of their positions. And the jurisdictions within their realms. And just great presentation, y'all. And thank you for sharing all the details with the community.
Thank you, Councilmember Watson. While you're with us before you depart, then I have a question for you.
Sure.
In your working closely with the group, did you see any additional resources that may be needed in the group, or any suggestions on being more efficient and effective in the utilization of our resources in the city?
Well, I was really pleased with the way that they had saved money in so many different directions and areas. I am excited about the software I've heard about a couple of times with the documentation, signing online, keeping things secure that I think Bryce mentioned. So I think that will be a great benefit to the city, and I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to the new website that we'll hear from Ryan later tonight about. I think that if I remember right, our current website is increasing dramatically, and so in an effort to save costs and in an effort to improve what we currently have as a website, they've done a lot of research. So I'm really excited to hear more about that and to see what is coming in our future for that website. But I was really excited and impressed with a lot of things they were doing, and I didn't have anything that I heard about that was concerning to me.
Okay, I would just ask, as you work with the group, and I appreciate the great efforts and things they're doing, I want to express that. I think it would be beneficial for all of us to make sure that we're planning on how this is going to affect us going forward in the future, how this allows us to handle additional growth in the city, not only resident-wise, but as we grow the team here in North Ogden. How does this affect our future? And you know, we might be making the investment now, but preparing for the future. So I would hope that you can help us with that, Councilmember Watson.
Sure, that sounds great.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Hess, is that all, Councilmember Watson, that you had? Is there anything else we can help you with?
Yes, that's great. Thank you so much. Sorry to butt in.
Okay. Good seeing you again after spending the last 2 days with the group. So good luck tonight in your welcome to your
Thank you.
parents' home.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hess.
Thank you. So I'm going to do the presentation for the building department and the planning department. Nate Davis, our building official, had another obligation that he had tonight, so he's unable to attend, but had a chance to meet with him this afternoon and get some budget information. I don't have all of the information for the building department, so if there's specific questions, we'll likely just have to get you those details, but we'll do our best to answer between John and I as we go forward. So the next slide. Oh, did they reorder, John? Go to the slide 2. I don't know if it's hidden.
Oh.
So just a quick thing on, quick note on the department overviews. I'd say that the building and the planning department have been right-sized a little bit. They've been changing over the last 3 years while I've been here. The planning department was 2.5 full-time employees. The half-time employee was splitting his time between the building department and the planning department. And we've had 2 people leave the city, and we have hired a full-time planner last October. So the planning department is fully staffed now, doing really well. I think that we're well set up for the future for the amount of growth that we're expecting for the next several years. We'll continue to watch that and let the council know if we need to bring on any additional part-time help, or we get a lot of utility and benefit out of University of Utah students that might come in and work part-time, get some experience, and then in municipal government, then move on. So right now, really happy with the planning department. Thank the council for the support in keeping that full-time position last year and getting Ryan Dunn hired. And then in the building department, we're sad to see Bruce Higley retire out. He told me today, I think he's got 5 days left, so he's not counting or anything, but he might know the number of hours at this point. Bruce has done a great job for the city, and we're sad to see him go. But in knowing that he was going to go, we brought Ty Lopshire on as a building inspector. He's been trained up. He's really motivated and excited, and has gotten his certifications really quickly. So he's actually been, you know, a really great backfill for Bruce. And then we have in there a little bit of funding for Gary, who still works for us. He worked here for a long time, and then Gary works part-time. So we're with those building inspectors, and then Colleen Phillips kind of helping run the show on the administrative assistant side. The building department again is also fully funded and fully, you know, working, and I think everything's good there. We have access to another part-time building inspector, and I think this is a benefit of the city, and really kind of kudos to our employees, is that we have a public works, an employee in public works who's cross-trained as a building inspector. So when we do have a crunch, we can call in additional folks to come and do inspections for us. I don't think right now we have any need for an additional full-time employee there, but again, I think Nate, as the building official, will continue to manage that and watch, and it's really just market dependent.
Scott, I might mention, I think the council's aware of this, but I believe the legislature passed a new statute that basically allows a developer, if we can't respond to them in the required time of 3 days, which we've been very good at meeting that deadline. But in the event that we can't, I think we have a list of approved inspectors that we can turn to, but we have to pay the bill.
You do, yep.
So I just wanted to point out the county is looking at entering into interlocal agreements to have a pool of inspectors in the cities in the county that each city could call on in the event one city has availability and the other city is overloaded. So we're waiting to see that interlocal agreement. But cities are somewhat nervous about this because you know, we're going to have inspectors inspecting properties that we're really not signing off on. And the fact of, you know, the cost involved that versus the city inspector. So we'll see how that turns out too. That might be our safety net, our leverage when things kind of take up. So
absolutely. Next slide, John. So we have two different slides on the budget percentages themselves. This is what I would say is it's not salaries and wages and benefits. So it's just those additional portions of our costs. The building department runs, it should run and pay for itself. So the fees associated with building come in and they should pay 100% of the operating cost of the building department. You know, ride the high waves, you keep a little bit of money, and then you know, kind of roll through the troughs when they come and go. So it's market dependent. We have a lot of uncertainty right now in the building community, and we've seen subdivisions slow down. We've seen land use and planning applications slow down. It's been kind of interesting to watch what happens with building permits because they seem to come in waves. You know, the other day we had about 24 come in all at once for one subdivision that they had sold and packaged, and those homes are being constructed now. So it does really kind of come and it's unexpected. And this year, I think there's some hesitancy from the building department that it's possible this could be one of those years that the building department isn't fully funded by the fees associated with that, depending on the market conditions. And if we don't, you know, if we continue to see building permits come in at the rate they are, or major projects pull back and wait a year, then we might see that. And we'll just kind of watch that with the budget. Nate didn't give me an exact number there. I just know that that's, you know, a bit of like low level anxiety that we all have with the building community right now. In the building department, I'll note that for both building and planning, there's a reduction in the budget. They're slight, but they both represent, you know, a 5.5 and a 7.6% reduction. That's just really trying to right size our business costs. Some of that is associated with Bruce leaving, so it's fewer people in the city to keep going to trainings and keep their certifications going. The phones that we have for them, motor pool costs, that sort of thing. Our professional services has stayed the same. Our motor pool has stayed the same. We keep a car for the building department. And so the total budget is $3,940 less in the building department than it was last year. And then in planning, same thing, going from 2.5 full-time employees down to 2. And then we also looked at our travel and training, which is really critical for us. Our local conferences, the Utah APA conferences, really help us network and be trained on the latest and greatest planning efforts that are happening. It's also where you hear all of the legislative updates, and then you work with the other planners around the state on how they're addressing those things. But in last year's budget, both Brandon Bell and myself had a national conference, and we've pulled that back. So Ryan Nunn, the idea is that we'll kind of go back and forth annually and make sure that we're both trained on a regular schedule. But I think that it's prudent to look at the budget, and that's one of those areas that we decided to pull back a little bit on. We don't participate in the motor pool. We do use the vehicles for inspections of land use permits and drive around and look at all of those land use developments, but we share the car. Ryan Santoro is nice enough to let us borrow the car when we need to, and that doesn't end up in our budget anymore. And then there should be a slight portion for professional services. I left out the administrative hearing officer, but it's a minor amount and it's a payback. So the applicants come in, if there's a variance hearing or another administrative hearing officer need, the applicant pays that fee, and then we use that as a pass-through to pay Meg Ryan, our administrative hearing officer. Otherwise, we don't have any grants that we've applied for through Wasatch Regional Council or other professional services. So the planning department sits without that third-party consultant, and so far we haven't needed that. Any questions on the discretionary portion of the budget, I would say?
Council, any questions? Scott, I think it might be helpful to, you made a comment, I think it's important, and I agree, it kind of ebbs and flows. But the overall goal is to have that covered by fees.
The building department. Correct?
Yeah. Do we have an ongoing record of if we're accomplishing that?
Nate does, and we can get you that. It's, it kind of, well, John was the building official last year. You go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, we don't have it to the penny, but the building department has more than paid for itself since 2009.
That's fantastic. And I think we should probably know what that is. And
Okay.
I think the other thing we've had a conversation on is, I think a portion of the planning department is also expected to be covered. Not like the building department, because we are planning and doing things for the future. But John, I think you've suggested maybe a review of fees in subdivision planning and things of that nature. It might be time to review that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we're on track, and I think it'd be nice to break down what our expectations are there, just so we have information to make sure we're accomplishing our goals. But I fully understand the planning department is one that's not covered entirely with fees. So, any other questions, Councilmember Dalpas?
I'm just curious if there's any room for savings in the motor pool with Bruce retiring. I'm just curious, does that affect anything?
I don't know that I don't think Bruce, Ty, and Nate all have a dedicated vehicle. Okay.
So one thing we've been a little cautious on with this is with their vehicles, we tried a new vehicle this year with them, put them in a Tundra truck, and we're not sure how much money's coming back. The nice thing about those Tundras is that we get the majority of the money back, or cars in the past that we've used, we've gotten the majority of the money back or more than. Best ones were the little RAV4s, the hybrid RAV4s. I think we got $1,100 back for each one that we leased. So we actually got paid to drive it for a year. But motor pool also covers gas and a lot of the other things in there too. But we can look at that and bring that back to the council for a recommendation on vehicles.
Just curious. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Scott? Okay, let's move on then to the next.
So the next slide is just our combined deliverables. This is sort of our goals list as well, but this was something that we talked about last year, and I think that they're still worth mentioning. The deliverables from the building department, the planning department, is really customer service based. We want to make sure that we're providing really good, solid customer service to our residents as well as our other departments within the city. We work across almost all of the departments. It tends to, we tend to work across all of the departments. We want to make sure that we're really doing a good job there. We facilitate development and land use rights. We attempt to have clear and consistent communication, reliable turnaround times, which again, the legislature is hammering us on in a number of ways, land use applications and building inspections. We process building permits, we make zoning decisions, and then our regular land use permits of all kinds, including just like the specific land use permit, fence, sheds, and concretes, but any and all of those subdivisions. So that's what we attempt to deliver, but I would say it's all, our delivery package is essentially good customer service, and we are working hard to do that. And then the last slide, John, is the difference between what I called that, there should be one more budget slide. The difference between, I called it discretionary. It's not really discretionary, but both of our departments are really people heavy. So salaries and wages for the building department make up almost 82%. In planning, it's 93%. Those business related costs you can see are, approximately 11 and 7%, with motor pool and professional services being in there for the building department. But there's just not a whole lot of wiggle room in the budget. We're a sunk cost of people heavy departments. It's not like we're out there spending a lot of extra funds or have a lot of frill money that we spend and utilize for the city. So we are cautious about our travel and training and our other services. We're essentially fully electronic. Our printing budget has been reduced over time. We don't really print plats anymore. We don't print large paper anymore. So we're conscious of all of those items, and we're just doing our best to trim where we can. But at the same time, those savings that you see that might be 7 or 10% of our budget are really small dollar figure at the end of the day, because our biggest cost is just salaries, wages, and benefits for the people who work there.
Councilmember Pulvar.
I
you
just
have a
looked up the
question?
revenue that they project for this current fiscal year is 400 for the building permits. So that gives you some idea.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. All right, let's move on. Jamie is had another commitment this evening, so she's asked me to go over the slides that she's presented. John, if you bring those up.
I will. Sorry, I punched the wrong button on the screen. There we go.
Okay, you want to advance that, John? So the finance department, just to give a little background on their responsibilities and accountabilities, is they are in charge of preparing and monitoring the budget, make sure that we're staying in compliance with state law. As those who have been involved in the budget preparation know, it's quite an event. It takes quite a bit of time to accomplish. Also, by statute, North Ogden City is required to have an annual audit of their financial records. Having been on both sides of that equation, that's very, very time consuming, even though you end up with numerous pages of paper. It's a long drawn out process, and very important that we stay in compliance. Just a reminder, where there were a number of years where audit report was not submitted on time. And in fact, I remember one year, it was close to cutting off our sales tax revenue. So Jamie has done a nice job in making sure we get a good start on that and that we comply with state law, which is good. We want to stay off that list. We meet quarterly as an audit committee. Jamie reports financial information there. She also issues a monthly financial report that's available to the council to review, and is available to the public if they'd like to see, how the council is, how the city is responding to its obligation of funds. And then, of course, there's numerous state and federal compliance. So those all file under the finance department. John? Also, in addition to the things just mentioned, the finance department has responsibility for oversight of internal controls. With the key provision there is to not avoid There's always a way around things, but to minimize and have mitigating controls in place to avoid any fraudulent activity in the city. So Jamie reports on that to the audit committee and is responsible to make sure we have a segregation of duties where possible. Our liability insurance, which is, I know she works closely with John on that to make sure we have adequate coverage for the city and that we are getting requests for proposals to make sure that we're getting the best value we can. That's surely an increasing cost to most businesses and cities. Many of you have seen your own insurance bills and they ain't going down, they're going up. And then, of course, she's responsible for overseeing general accounting, which includes accounts payable, making sure that we pay our bills and we pay them on time. She maintains the tracking records for fixed assets. And then, of course, she importantly makes sure that the employees are paid and paid on time. So very important responsibilities. John? Okay, so we want to thank those who have reduced their budget. As you look at this, the total budget for the finance department is projected to be $325,000 to accomplish the things we just went over. That is an increase of $103,000. Jamie has indicated what that is. It relates to personnel costs. She is requesting an additional full-time equivalent employee in the department. So you're aware of that, council. And I think the background on that is the fact that frankly, we're fairly exposed. It's a 1.5 person department. Frankly, it's a 1 person department because the other individual splits their time and is probably not of the level of finance and accounting expertise that if Jamie got ran over by a bus or hit by a car, we'd be in a world of hurt. And so I think this is something, council, you need to look at from the standpoint of making sure that we can comply with all those issues in the event something were to happen there. So that is the genesis for the request there. In addition to workload, there's just seems to be more and more statutes to comply with. And I know Jamie is looking at every opportunity to automate things. So you can see the increase there. John? So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the department is comprised of Jamie, who's our finance director. We have an accounts payable clerk who splits their time between that and emergency management. And then the mention of the full-time position we just talked about. And council, so as you digest this, know the level of the full-time equivalent position that's being sought there. It is someone that does have the financial expertise as a backup to Jamie and has the accounting and finance expertise to understand the difficulties of that department. So it's a substantial investment in a full-time equivalent employee. It's not a clerical position that's being sought. Okay. Any questions? Okay, gives you things to digest. Councilmember Pulver.
I guess a couple of things the budget committee was talking about or kind of digested too was not this, but it's just some of the things that finance is looking at. They're gonna rebid the financial institution that the city uses. And they were talking about trying to increase efficiency by using a P card, which I thought most of the people that they were budget committee was looking at thought that was a good idea. So just little minor things like that. And overall, I mean, we looked at a lot of things related to finance, either through cell phone use, travel policy, OT, overtime use. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that comes into, that she has to do. And so I can see the utility in getting somebody else. And like you said, heaven forbid something happens, but
Yeah, I think Price is also involved probably with the banking
Yeah.
aspect of things too. So, okay, thank you, Councilmember Pulver. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much for those presentations. We're going to move on now to Mr. Espinosa. He's going to talk to us about the enterprise funds. So David?
So yeah, we're going to talk about the enterprise funds in Public Works. Obviously, your enterprise funds are all your utility funds, right? So we're speaking about water, sewer, stormwater, and solid waste tonight. And so we'll start with water. The water department's made up of 7 full-time employees. Inside of Public Works, we have 11 total water certified employees inside of Public Works total. This is one of those departments that it takes the whole department to make sure that everything is running properly. And so we have a lot of experience, not only in the water department, but in other departments that are built around the water department, and that have moved on to other leadership roles and different things. So the first slide here is just talking about some of the deliverables that we had from this year, right? So the storage tank, we put in a 2 million gallon tank. We are in the process of backfilling that tank so that we can, it's up and running, it's ready to roll. But as far as the state goes, it has to be backfilled completely for it to be put into service. And so that's where we're at in the process right now, is backfilling it. We've passed all of our pressure tests, all of our leak tests. And so that's kind of where we're at. The next one was an asphalt saw. When we do water leaks, we use, these big saws that cut the asphalt and so that we can put clean patches back in. We were able to buy that. We've talked about some of the well development with future planning. We have 2 wells that have been drilled, but are not put into service right now. One of them, we were able to put the casing in. Everything is ready to go. It's just really taking and putting the building on top of that well, and we be able to be up and running. So we were able to put the casing in this year as well. We moved the Fruitland booster to a couple, some future years as far as long-term planning. That's going to take some property acquisition. So everybody knows 2100 Fruitland, that kind of wonky intersection. We have a booster pump in there that we boost water from our well 2, which is on 2100, and we pump it all the way up the hill, and we can pump it all the way up to Rice Creek actually. And so that we just need to get taken out of the ground. This picture here, you can actually see the corrosion and some of the stuff the problems that we have by having that put in the ground. We want to take that thing out of the ground, put it in a building where it can be safer for our employees and for the system itself. Some of the, again, we're just talking about some of the future wells. Planning for we have some sites. We have 6 dedicated sites in our city that are approved by the state. They were not tested by anybody else, any other water system. So we can drill in any of those 6 sites going into the future. All of those sites, well, not all of them, 5 out of the 6 are down on the flats where we know we could drill and get a significant amount of water. The PRV maintenance, we've talked about that a lot over the years. PRV maintenance, just upgrading our PRV systems. Our PRVs are what controls the pressure coming down the mountain, slowing down the pressure, and so that we can, utilize the water throughout the whole system and not just in one area. And then the drives and the TSP. So that is what our SCADA, this is how our SCADA talks to our, all of our wells, our springs, all of our booster pumps, all of this stuff. The drives are, that's how they communicate. Some of those were over 15 years old, and so we replaced all the drives at all of our well sites to start well 1, 2, and 3. We were able to upgrade all of that technology and the drives that go with that. So, and then a valve exercising, we actually moved that into this coming up budget year. We talked about it a little bit in the budget committee, but it sounds like it's a silly tool, like, hey, you can't turn a valve. But what it does is it turns it in a rate that we're not going to cause water hammer. We're not going to cause any kind of leaks, anything like that. It puts just the right amount of pressure on these valves. So if it has a problem, it'll actually shut itself down. And so it's a tool that's just to utilize to make sure that our valves are working properly and that we can, if we ever have an emergency, that we can, shut it off and do those kind of things. So you can go to the next slide, Joe. Some of the projects that we're talking about this year are water line based projects, to be honest with you. 1700 North, I think a lot of you guys have heard how many water leaks we've had recently on 1700 North. That is a main thoroughfare for all of basically anything west of Washington from 1700 to 2100 works its way through 1700 in a lot of ways. And so to make sure that it has the adequate, size and then be the right, pipe, we just need to make sure that's working properly. So 1700 is a big project that we are going to seek doing this year. And then the other one is a continuation of the one that we brought to you guys earlier this year, between 3100 and 3300 on 575 and 750. It's just very old. Most of that is over 50 years old. Most of it's undersized. Our standard now is 8-inch pipe. Most of that pipe there is 6-inch. It's steel pipe. And so when we have big leaks there, we have to shut down major portions of that area there. There's not the valves cut in like we have nowadays. So when we have a leak there, we have to do major shutdowns. And so this will just be a great upgrade for that. The disinfection and monitoring equipment. This is the equipment that makes sure that we are properly putting the chlorine that we're supposed to be putting in, making sure that we're dosing at the right dose. And most of that equipment is anywhere from 2009 to 2011 is when it got put in. The last time we did a major upgrade on our disinfection stuff. And so when we had our last sanitary survey, that was one thing that they recommended that we start looking at upgrading all of our disinfection stuff. So that is another thing that we are asking for. The engineering services, this is to work in connection with Eric, our engineer here in-house. There's just constantly new rule changes and new things coming down the pipe for us as far as water goes. And so trying to stay on top of that it's a big task. It's too much to ask from Eric. It's too much to ask from even Jason. Like, it's just constantly changing. And so what we're asking the council is that we work kind of with one engineer. We're going to take out of that the pool that we've been using. We use 5 engineers right now. We want to be able to work with one of those 5. We'll put it out and we will do a yearly contract where we work with them and they can kind of help us stay up on top of those kind of the rule stuff, help us do some pressure testing, and we making sure our hydrants are flowing at the specific rates and those kind of things, like
Fire flow requirements.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Yep.
And so That's what that is. And then some of the shared costs that you can see there, a dump truck. Both of our dump trucks are, one's a 2000, the other one's a 2004. So they're over 20 years old. And these guys utilize, their dump trucks quite a bit. And then the same thing with the excavator. It's a 2001. So that's something that we feel like needs to definitely be upgraded as well. Long term, we're always thinking future. We have our 5-year plans. Even some of our plans go out to 10 years. Just to kind of put on your guys' radar and just make sure that we're thinking about them. SCADA, our SCADA company is over 25 years old. It is a very small company that is made up of only 3 owners. If they packed up tomorrow and said, hey, we're going to retire, we would have to change courses and do something different. We really like that our SCADA is radio based. So there's web-based products out there. The only thing with the web-based products is when the internet goes down, so does your SCADA. The radio is it's a very good technology. I mean, it's a very stable technology, I should say. So that is something that we want to probably stay with radio, but we just have to start thinking, some long-term things that if something happens and that company shifts, that we are ready for that. And we've been planning for that for a while. The meter system is always one of those things that, we're coming up on 12 years with this system, 11 years with this system. We just have to start thinking, the next change out for our meter system is going to be a full change out. So we were really lucky in the last time we did our meter system, in the fact that we only had to change the radio. So you can see the black radio on top of the meter there. That's the only thing we had to change on the last change out. But now all of those radios are about the meters themselves. A lot of our system is about 25 years old or older. And so they're not calibrated probably as good as they could be. They're starting to fail in different aspects as far as the plates underneath and the bodies. And so when we do our next change out, it's going to be a full change out, which is going to be a huge undertaking. So just to think about that, talked about the Fruitland booster just a little bit, and then talked about the wells. So you can go to the next slide. This is just to give you an idea. It's kind of hard to see on the left side, but those are some of the water line replacements we did in the past here. Fruitland Drive, a part of 750, a portion of Washington Boulevard, and then we had to push the 1700 into this year just because it's going to be a lot bigger task to replace that one. And then on the right side is just some of the water line replacement we talked about between 3100 and 3300, that area. So you can see all of that area getting replaced as well. You can go to the next slide, John. These are the PRVs that we talked about upgrading, just to give you some ideas of. That's the top picture is what they look like before and when they went in. The bottom picture, we change all the tubing to be a stronger tubing. All the parts are stainless that run the pilot system, and then obviously we paint and coat all of that so we can stop corrosion. The right picture is just some of the places where we've done that. We've done some of the replacements that we've done. So you can see there's, already 10 or so that we've already replaced, like full PRVs. So that's for water. You guys got any questions about water?
Councilmember Dowpass.
Thanks. The Fruitland booster station, how is that going to work? Do we have a neighbor that is amenable to selling property, or just kind of curious what that looks like?
Not yet. And the other thing is the other aspect to it is trying to figure out how we're gonna do the road as well, right? So it's working with the streets department on, are we going to straighten that road out? Are we gonna, there's been talks about putting a roundabout on that section. So that will really determine on how much ground we actually need. If we straighten that road out, you might have to take a portion of a property. If you put the roundabout in, you're probably gonna take a full property and maybe a portion of another property. And so those are things that we just need to discuss going forward. And that's why we felt like we needed to push it down the road a little bit. Plus, we put in for some county funding to help with that, because it's such a big undertaking, between the streets department and the water department. And so we've put some money into that, which the funding was for like 27 or 28, right, Joe? Yeah. So.
Thanks.
Councilmember Pulver.
Just a couple things. I think the biggest thing maybe Budget Committee was kind of scrutinizing was the added consultant. And I think the biggest thing that kind of changed our minds was the fact that this kind of enables the city engineer to kind of get off of some of these things that he has to stay on top of all the time. And I think the biggest one was the hydraulic modeling that just don't have the capability or the not training, but the software to do. And to get this per hour and get, like you said, the same person is quicker and more efficient than even having Eric do it. So I think that was kind of a key selling point for us of why we thought that was pretty good. And I think the other, I don't know if anybody knows this, but North Ogden is somewhat unique because we don't have to pay for culinary water from another company. I didn't know why I didn't know that, but I didn't know that. And I think that's something to think about. And then little things that the state has pushed upon us. You haven't really gone through it yet, but there's a little thing that's going to require this 20 grand from the city to go do an inspection for each little connection that we have. Correct. So, and I think some of the things that they were talking about replacement, we need to be emissions compliant. So we got to change some of our old trucks. And like you said, the key thing to developing and making 1700 better curb and gutter, stuff like that, is this project, because water goes first and then streets. Because if streets go first, then we get mad because then we have all of these seams going everywhere because the water digs them up. So anyways, I think we're doing the right direction, the right method. And the big thing, like he mentioned, is the water meters coming in the next 3 to 6 years.
Hey, Councilmember Dalpaz, you sent me quite an interesting article. I think it was at Riverton. That
I don't remember, but it was a city down south that was having troubles because they were having to purchase their water from another provider, and they had to jack up their rates substantially all at once. I'll find it.
Yeah, I believe they said that if they didn't make those adjustments, they'd be out of funding
In a
by
year,
the-
1
in-
year.
In 1 year.
Yeah.
And so, as we've mentioned before, there's a lot of projects that need to take place.
Harriman City.
Harriman, that need to take place that are probably going to result in some adjustments to the water charges. And
Correct.
I think Dave's going to look at that in a lot of different areas, the base charge, the high water use charge.
Yes.
I think the discussion we've had, if there's any way that those can be adjusted based upon usage, it'd be least effective to the citizens who are on a fixed income. If we just try to recover it all in a base charge versus a usage charge. And I think Dave is being very considerate in the fact that he understands that those on a fixed income can't handle all these necessary things. So he's looking at it more of recovering the needed funds as much as possible on a usage basis.
Yes.
Is
Thanks,
that
Mayor.
correct, Dave?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll jump into stormwater. Stormwater, we've started, this year we actually started doing the lining projects just like the sewer, right? We see a very big benefit in the fact that there's times where the storm drain either connects into the canal system or it actually it bypasses or it leaves the canal system. And so there's always vegetation and different things in there. And so which cause roots and other things to happen. And we've found in the two that we were able to line this year, it's helped us significantly already. Like we're seeing a huge benefit in lining those areas. And so we want to continue to do that, you know, in some of these areas where we think it'd be very useful. Another one of the things that we were able to complete this year was the 2100 stormwater project. That was upsizing the stormwater system through that kind of that crazy intersection and up to our big 2 million gallon tank. So we'll be able to have a better stormwater system through that area, and it won't be so much on the surface. That's what caused a lot of the road problems and different things that we've had in that area, is just because a lot of that water was traveling on the surface of the road. 2550 pond, obviously that's something we've talked about for many years, and it looks like we're starting to finally get into the phases where it's getting through the feds. You know, we're expecting some acceptance here pretty quick with that, and so we will actually be able to look at putting shovels in the ground in next spring, early spring to late to early summer, to where we'll actually be able to start putting shovels in the ground and start actually designing the pond. So, and then the other things were just equipment for stormwater. Some of the big things are, you know, snow blowers. You don't think about snow blowers and stormwater very much, but we have so many ponds here. We have, I think, 50 something ponds in our city, which all have sidewalk around them. And to follow our own rules, we have to make sure that we're clearing all that sidewalk, as well as, you know, just like anybody else that owns property. And so that was just the equipment. It's called a Ventrex. It's a ride-on machine that it fits on sidewalks. It'll clean it. We think it'll be very useful in clearing all those sidewalks around all of our ponds. And then the 6-inch trash pump is down at the equestrian park. There's a big pond there. I don't know if anybody's even noticed it, but that pond, the only way you can get the water out of that pond is to pump it out. So it gathers all the water from the green waste pit as well as the equestrian park, and it all gathers right there. But then we have to pump it back up and put it into one of our channels there. That pump, I think Tyrell said it was like a 1997 pump. So, I mean, we've been piecing it together and putting parts together, and it's just time to replace that big pump there. The other really good thing about that pump is it's mobile. So if we ever got into a issue where we need to move that pump, and we can, you know, if we're having problems in one of our other channels or one of our other ponds, we can actually use that pump. We can go take it to that site and be able to disperse the water in some of those situations. So that will be very useful. That's stormwater. Any questions there? As far as stormwater, we are not expecting any increases as far as stormwater goes.
Dave, I think it would be worth mentioning the fact that once this pond you're talking about here that's on the screen is completed, we have a buyer for the existing pond that is a substantial amount of money that will go into storm water fund. So we're, I think, in good shape there for years to come. That'll be part of the commercial development that should be starting here soon, just below Washington Boulevard, 2700. Okay.
Next is sewer. Sewer, again, we've talked about lining. That picture on the left is that them actually rolling the liner into the pipe there. Once they get it into the pipe, they inflate it. They introduce a resin and it hardens and becomes its own pipe basically inside of our pipe. So if you're wondering what we keep on talking about lining, that's what that is. Another thing that we have tried and we find that it's been very useful is lining. It's actually a spray that we line our manholes with. You don't think about it very much, but the manholes are the biggest place for the gases to go, right? When sewer's going through the pipe, it gets to a manhole and all those gases sit in that manhole. And it corrodes the concrete and we start having issues there. We don't want to have problems where we're having concrete go into our pipes or anything like that. And so this will solve some of those issues like that, where we'll line the manholes. Yeah, this right here is our sewer rat. The sewer rat is has been a very useful piece of machinery for our city. We actually contract this out. We don't actually run the piece of equipment, but it has literally saved us about getting a guy, right? Like at one point we were asking for a third person in sewer, and by getting this piece of equipment and using this software, we're able to maintain at the 2 people that we have in sewer. What it does is it sends sound waves. So there's 2 machines that look just like this, and we put it in connecting manholes. And what they do is they send signals in different frequencies. And what it does is it finds out how clogged or not clogged that pipe is. And then what it does is it maps out the whole system for us and tells us, hey, in this small area, you have a problem. You know, you might have a small blockage of 10% or 15%. And so you need to start cleaning this. What that does for our department is we used to have to clean blindly, right? We would just go out, we'd clean a third of our city, half of our city if we could get to it, and we would clean blindly. We would take the sewer truck out, which means we're taking the sewer truck out. We're putting a lot more work into our sewer truck. We have to use a ton more water because we're cleaning all these pipes. And with this frequency, it tells us where the bad spots are. And so we can focus on those areas first and clean those areas and kind of work our way backwards. It's saved a lot of hours and time on our sewer truck to the point where we've been able to, in our 5-year plan, move that sewer truck farther down the road. You know, when that truck is a $500,000 truck, we've been able to move it down farther because we're not putting the amount of hours on that we had before. And we can verify all of what the sewer rat is saying with all of our TV, and, you know, Trent's being able to go take out and TV our all of our pipes and verify that what they're seeing is what we're seeing. So it's been a very good tool, and it's saved us a lot of work and helped us a lot. So that's that one. We've finished our contract. So this is on the screen. There is kind of what you're looking at as far as the pricing for if we keep moving forward. That, you know, we're expecting about a 4% increase every year with them. Any questions on sewer?
Councilmember Pulver?
Just a couple of things. I went through a whole bunch of stuff, again, budget committee wise, and I think they realize that there's a lot of outside forces that control a lot of the costs. Central Weaver City, or Central Weaver Sewer being the biggest one, and that again is going up. I heard 10%. So
we actually, yeah, it's only going to be 2%.
2? All right, even better, but it's still up anyway.
Absolutely.
But and then the biggest reason for putting the pipelining, kind of pushing it up, is to get more bang for your buck. And I think one of the other options is to kind of share with other cities to see if we can, the city itself, because there's a setup fee, and if you have to pay that setup fee and then only get a little bit more. So I thought that was good. And then Dave's working on that. And then, like you said, the small fee for the inspection tool, but I think as we were looking at it, because some of the newer sewer pipe is not obviously concrete, that's just the old stuff, is that basically 50% of the current sewer pipe is not concrete, I think is what we determined. So that's pretty darn good.
Okay, David, you want to proceed?
Yeah, so we'll go with solid waste here. And so this is our last year of our contract with Republic. We can extend 2 more years, John?
I think so, yeah. I think it's up to 7, yeah.
Yeah, so we can extend, but this is the end of the original contract with them. The way the contract works is it can be anywhere from 2 to 4% that they increase their fees. So we've just planned for right now that's about a $30,000 increase. We've talked to Weber County. Mayor actually got a hold of somebody over there, and they are not going to do any tipping fee increases, which is huge.
Did you get that in writing?
Although we should maybe expand on that. No increase in the actual fee per tonnage,
Correct.
but we are delivering a lot more tonnage.
Yeah, we're up. It's crazy. We're up about 20% in our tonnage we really don't know why.
Work from home.
Well, I mean, we experienced that during the pandemic, but yeah, it's, and I'm not sure our residents understand that we're paying on a per tonnage basis. I don't know, maybe there's been a lot of cleaning out of homes with people moving or something.
Or more grass.
Okay. David?
But the other thing is that we can talk about is the cans. So we talked about this a lot in the committee as well. There was kind of 2 options on the table as far as cans go, where we could turn all of our cans back over to Republic and let them, they would give us a fee, but they would be completely in control of the cans, because we were seeing continuing increases on all of our cans. To the point where it started about in 2020, they were about $70, and they've just every year just increased and increased up until this year. They're $134. Brian's been working really hard with trying to go shop cans around, trying to figure out how we can do something different. He was able to work out a deal where Ogden City has moved to a company called Toter. They're out of Texas. And we have been able to piggyback on a contract that Ogden City has. And so we will get a price of now $56 a can. There is shipping involved. The most expensive shipping we're looking at, it would make the cans about $75. And if we did a big order, and we've talked to working it out, like kind of ordering at the same time as Ogden and seeing if we can share that shipping cost, that we could be closer to like the $65 range. And so that's why we put that. There's kind of a range, but still significant savings compared to the $134 that we're paying right now. And so we've felt like that keeping that service in-house would be something that's important to the city. Because the second that you turn it over to the vendor, you've kind of lost control, right? If there's a can that's broken and it hasn't been replaced for days, we just have to keep sending our citizens to the company and trying to get those cans replaced. And so we felt like there's a lot more control, and we feel like that our service, that we can provide a better service with moving to this system with Toter. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Any questions there as far as cans go?
Councilmember Pulver, you have a comment?
Yep. This was kind of the big thing from the budget committee. One of the, really one things that we saw as a savings, I think, like Dave said that there are three big options for what we're doing. And I think the committee said, yeah, keep what we have. But I think replacing broken cans was kind of the thing we talked about a lot. And I think, obviously, the city tries to, Public Works tries to fix them as necessary, but for the most part, if it's not repairable, the city pays for it. And when I say city, obviously it's the people that are paying taxes or the fees for it. So I think the budget committee said it should be a 50-50 split, and I tend to agree with that. It's something that I think we should implement, and that should be something that I want to say go do, but that's something council should probably talk about.
David, what else do you have?
I think that's all for us, right, John? Is there any, I think that's our last, this is a split cost. So over at the old Public Works shop, you guys obviously know we're getting that Waterworks Park right next door. We want to be able to utilize those northern shops. So this is the north side of the old Public Works shop. You can see that there's the 4 bays that are closed, and then we have the two huge bays that are open. We would like to close those 2 open bays and make them basically 4 more closed bays, and then reface all of that. We think it would be something that would be something a lot better to look at next to this nice new park we're putting in. But we think we'd also be able to just utilize that space a little better. If we can put some doors on that opening over there, we feel like that we'd be able to use the storage, put parts and different things for different departments. And so this is a shared cost with all the utility fees, or with all the utility departments. It would be a split cost with those departments on utilizing this portion of the shops there. Questions? That's all we
Okay.
got.
I guess ultimately we'll see the effect of all that on rates.
Yes.
Any questions for Dave? All right, Mr. Espinosa, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I will move on to item number 7. And Ryan, you've been waiting anxiously for this moment, so.
I have, yes, I'm very excited. And I have Bryce and Katie helping with the presentation. I have to sincerely thank them and Dave Espinoza. All of us have really combined our efforts in finding this option and putting together this presentation for you. And I surely couldn't have done it without them. So I appreciate everything they've done for this as well. So as soon as he gets the presentation up and going, we'll get her done. Okay, you can go to the next slide since I already did a little introduction there. So the online presence of local government is so important because it plays a pivotal role in connecting with residents and disseminating important information. And of course, the transparency of the city records. Katie, Dave, and I have sat down and attended several demonstrations with website vendors, as well as received several cost proposals. And we all 3 agreed and were impressed by a company called Revise. Through their demo, it's clear that with them, we will have more control, ease of access, faster response times with any issues with the website, and more accessibility, all of which will help us as a city keep the residents up to date and informed.
So to continue with our current provider, which is Civic Plus, we must migrate to their new platform. And that will be a cost of $5,500 and a timeline of 6 to 9 months for this process to begin. Once that process does begin, it will be several months for that process to be finalized. During our meetings with Civic Plus, we've asked for specific dates and more kind of a succinct timeline and and at this time, they can't give that to us. They told us that we are not at the top of the list right now, just with all that's going on. And so they're not even real sure if we will get into that 6 to 9 month range. So in addition to the $5,500 migration cost, our annual website hosting and maintenance fee of $6,800 is due by May 31st. And then the agenda management fee, which is the $3,500, is also due for a total of $15,800. So per our policy, we sat down and received bids from 3 separate providers, the Civic Plus, which we currently have, the Granicus, and then Revise, which is what we're proposing to you today. So the breakdown includes, so this is inclusive of the, oops, go back to that one, perfect. So this is inclusive of the agenda management program, which we do currently pay for, an intranet, which we find is vital for city employees, and then also the website itself. So we do understand that going forward, the initial setup is an increase of $185. However, with our recommendation to move forward with Revise, this would save the city a total of $4,450 annually, while providing our residents and city employees with enhanced features and capabilities.
Okay, as Katie kind of touched on, it was important to us in the internet as we explored that option. It became a must-have for the city. What this will do is it will give us centralized information, and all of the employees in the city will have the forms for benefits, travel reimbursements, things of that nature right there at their fingertips. As it is right now, they have to go online and get the PDF and scan it back in or set up a time with Katie to give those documents. So it will be also a cost savings with printing and time as well. It will also increase our communication so that our employees can collaborate and share ideas. It'll boost productivity. It'll engage our workforce. It will also eventually have a training platform, which will help with skill development, and then streamline processes where it will automate workflows for smoother operations for things like agenda items request, contract management, things of that nature. We can also employ an employee directory, so we'll have everybody's contact information right there with a few clicks. And all of this will be secure. It improves efficiency, communication, and engagement while saving costs and maintaining security of our sensitive information. The benefits of the company Revise doing our redesign is improved user experience. This streamlined design enhances the navigation. It'll make it so that our citizens can find what they need faster. It has better search capabilities, which leads to accessibility, accountability, and transparency. Over the years, we have received some citizen complaints and confusion with navigating our website. It is our belief that this new website will minimize the confusion a great deal. It also streamlines admin processes for staff with online forms, maybe future online payments and reservations of our facilities. Not only did I send you all invitation to look at the Utah municipal websites that Revise currently hosts, but I also sent it to a few of our citizens, and I received really good feedback from 2 of them today. One of them said that it was easier to find what you were looking for. With just a couple of clicks, she was able to find what she wanted on these other municipalities' websites. Some of the favorites was South Ogden, Vineyard, and Riverton's website. Those were attractive and especially user-friendly. Another one of our citizens really liked South Ogden, Green River, and Spanish Fork. I wanted to note that with Spanish Fork, they have implemented a way to put their Facebook page there. So anything that's posted on Facebook with just a click, citizens can see the important bits and information just right there at a few clicks. It's sleek and simple, and less is more when it comes to city websites. This will help us update and keep up to date pertinent information to our citizens.
Okay, so we wanted to kind of compare them side by side with you tonight. So first we have we have our forms. Oh boy. You guys can't see it. Let's see. Just know it's way better. You can see what I was seeing.
What it's like.
I remember one of the coaches or something down at one of the universities down south said, visualize. Is that what we're doing here? Is visualizing?
Yeah,
I think so.
All right.
Let's see. Full screen, you see.
Will everybody visualize a crisp, clean and streamlined version?
Okay, so, and hopefully this will work because we've jumped back and forth a lot. But so these are our current forms, and the way that they work is you have to download a PDF, then you fill the PDF out, and then you email it in. With Revise Online Forms, you come here and it opens the form up. And then you can fill it all out in here. They're all fillable. And then you just submit it in here without having to send it through email. This is a much more secure way to exchange information. And so that's the forms. Now let's see if we can get the next one to work.
Sorry, Bryce, I'm running it from up here. So this is the revised forms, this one.
Okay.
So it's just a little cleaner than the,
Don, if you'd actually go back to that and click on one of those forms, it'll show you how you can fill it out directly. Probably maybe the next.
If you scroll down a little more, it's right there. You can fill it all out within the website itself and then submit it. So you're not sending it through your email. It's a more secure way to exchange information. This way it just stays with one party rather than having to send it back and forth. So the next one was just their utilities page. So that's our current one. And when you look at this one, you can tell it's just a much cleaner look, a more modern, newer look. The tabs on the left side on the top there kind of cover everything that you could look for on their site. Let's see. So, like Ryan already said, it enhances user experience, simplified layouts and fewer details prevent overwhelming visitors and improving usability, streamlined navigation, and improving data accuracy. And then the other thing that revised is way better, well, not way better, but it's a better feature is their calendar. So the city's current calendar, sorry, I know this is more difficult this way, but our current calendar, this is how it looks. Everything's there. There's not a way you can sort by going through departments and boards, but it just looks messy. It looks old. With the revised calendar, everything's cleaner. There's tabs for it. You can
Down at the bottom.
right there. So it's easier to search for what you're looking for. You can attach the same information that we currently have. It just is more user-friendly and easier to navigate. And then let's see. So then the search capabilities, I don't know, how many of you guys have searched our website trying to find a specific thing? It's not the best. Like, so when you search our website, like if you just search council, you get a wide variety of results that you get. When you search these other ones, it's a lot easier to kind of sift through it and find what you're looking for, even when you just search for council, which is very broad term for cities. The results are a lot easier to find what you're looking for specifically. And then the last thing with Revise is.
Okay, so before we go on to the payment options, so now that we've reviewed the cost comparison and the examples from all the different sites, which payment option would the city like to proceed with? With all of our fingers crossed like this.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I included this in the packet so that you guys could digest it a little bit. There's 3 different payment options here that we can choose from, which I thought was a nice feature that Revise offers as well. So that's something that we'll be asking you all to decide on here shortly. In summary, the North Ogden City could really benefit from a new website. It will vastly improve the user experience with our residents, and it will modernize our online presence and will demonstrate our commitment to our citizens for transparency, accessibility, efficiency, and citizen engagement, which is so very important to all of us.
Can we go back to the payment slide? Can somebody explain option 1 to me?
So option 1 is you could do 5 payments of $8,537.
A year?
Spread it out.
So that's $42,000. How long of time period does that cover?
I believe it'd be a 1 year.
5 years.
Yes, 5 years.
So all of these are a 5-year commitment. And so option 1 is just taking the total $42,000 cost across
For
5 years. Option 2 is taking the implementation cost and spreading it over 3 years and then doing your hosting cost separately. And then option 3 is doing your implementation cost up front at 20,000 and then just your next 4 years at just the hosting.
What?
Go ahead, Councilmember Pulver.
So you said the current cost that we're gonna have to spend is 15 grand, right, this year alone?
Yeah,
Is
so
that-
the 15,800 would be due by the end of May. And that still doesn't give us an updated website,
It just gives us what we got,
right?
which I'm sure, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna make sarcastic comment. I won't.
Maybe Dave can answer this question. In our conversation, I suggested maybe we identify frequent users of our current website and also get feedback from them. Are we able to identify that?
I haven't been able to follow up to ask Bryce that, so I didn't know if that's something that we could find out is who visits our website. Is that something that we can see? Is that something we'd have to contact our current host Civic Plus for?
We'd have to contact our Civic Plus. We don't collect any of that data. They collect it. They'd be able to tell us that. So we could find it out. We just have to contact them.
Is there a timeline to have to cancel or termination cost or what? Is there anything with the current contract that if you just don't pay it, then you don't have a website anymore after May 31st?
I've had contact with them and explored options, and they have given options for us to extend until we have Revise up and running. And of course, it's not that full amount. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but we have looked into those possibilities.
So this is a 5-year contract to make it and then manage it, right? Okay.
So it will be up and running within 24 weeks is the time frame if we decide to go with Revise.
It'd be interesting to have Jamie explain to us how this would affect our financial statements if we pay for it all in 1 year. And is there a benefit of doing that, a present value benefit? I don't have my calculator with me, but I'm not adverse to using other people's money if there's no implied interest cost either. Councilmember Dalpas.
I just did the calculator. It's all the same price. So every option is the exact same price. It's just different ways of paying it. And then, what was I going to say? I think when I was reviewing the information, it sounded like there was they will design it now. And then after 4 years or so, they will give you a free redesign to revamp it again. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. And just to note, that is something that Civic Plus does not offer. It costs quite a bit of money to redesign.
Well, I would say then let's use their money for nothing. Why would we give them all of our money if there's no discount for paying up front?
Meaning option one.
Yeah, I mean, keeping our money as long as we can if there's no discount. The other question I have is this is nice backbone. How are we going to keep this up? Who's responsible for making sure the data is current and keeping it up? I had a conversation with John the other day. I was trying to look up water rates in our history when Mr. Dowpass sent this to me, and I think there was the water rates I was looking up was back in 2019.
Yeah, it was a different section of the website where they had been listed and not on the fee schedule, and it was confusing. Again, tying back to that search capacity and the results it throws
So
out.
who's going to keep this up? I looked at the websites and I thought they were very impressive, but they're only as impressive as the accuracy of the data. So have we got a plan for that?
So right now we have different people that monitor and maintain each of the department websites. So I think if we were to move forward, and I think even if we end up staying with Civic Plus, that's something that we need to have a conversation about, just so that everybody's on the same page as far as who's updating what.
Yeah.
But right now, there's somebody for Public Works, for admin, and then Parks and Rec.
I think somebody once told me if everybody's in charge, nobody's in charge. I would strongly recommend we look at having someone that's accountable and responsible for the data.
So yeah, what we've done
I was
is,
thinking that could be you, John.
yeah. What we've done is in each department, they were responsible for their pages. And then Katie had been taking on the calendar and the other postings. But Crystal, for example, did all the public works stuff. And so that's how we done it, is we kind of divide it into sections. But it'd probably be more efficient if there's one person who just was responsible for it. And we can still have people do the individual contributions, but one person that's just kind of taking the lead.
Well, my recommendation is if there's no discount for upfront payment, why would we do that? I'd say we just take the payment, 5 payments over time, I guess. Councilmember Dowpass, go ahead.
I didn't understand the savings. I heard that we saved $4,400 this year, per year.
Per year, annually.
Okay.
Go back to right here. So this is yearly. So this is what this is what we're currently paying for Civic Plus, is the 10,300. And going forward, after we get everything implemented and how it's supposed to be set up, it will be the 5,850 for revise.
Is that intranet that's extra that we don't have currently?
Correct. We do not have an intranet currently. So if you go back, can we go back to right there? So the revise, this is what they have added on. So the green, I think it's, sorry, I can't see the green. Yeah, so the green is the intranet. We currently do not have that option. So yes, these fees, and Granicus did not offer that option.
Just it's intranet, yeah, because that's the
Correct.
thing. I didn't hear that until I saw it. And that
Yes, the intranet.
Yeah.
So are you looking for us to
What we're
approve this?
looking, what we're looking for, Mayor, is essentially approval to sign the contract and to know which option you would like us to sign the contract for.
Okay, Councilmember Barker.
Do you have a recommendation of which option you would prefer?
I don't care which option. I just really want the website.
Oh.
If there's no cost savings to paying it up front, why not spread it out over 5 years and take advantage of it?
I was just
Yeah,
curious.
if they came back with another recommendation, I'd have to question that, because why are we going to let people use our money? But there is one thing I would like, I appreciate getting the feedback from a couple of citizens. This surely meets employees' needs better, but I want to make sure that, the user understands that. And I would suggest, council, we approve it based upon getting that additional feedback with the payment over time. But I'd have to have a motion from the council if someone's interested. Hello, is anyone there?
I could try. Oh, you got it?
Councilmember Barker?
So my only question, how soon can you get that information from Civic Plus to find out other users? Because this is me thinking, if I know I'm losing business, I'm not in no hurry to get you the information you're requesting.
Well, that's a concern of mine too,
Yeah.
Councilman Barker, because with our questions before they knew we were shopping around for other vendors, it was hard for us to get answers or get help for our current website. So I can't guarantee that's information that I can even obtain.
I've got an idea. I'll bet you $10 on the spot that those who are using it now know who else is using it, and we could get some recommendations from them. Let's try that
I
then.
think they're in this room.
But I think they know who else is using it. So let's just utilize that resource.
We're online.
Can we do that? And that's the best we can do. Let's do it.
I can absolutely do that. The three
Perfect.
citizens I talked to today provided great feedback fast, and so I will get there with them
I
for
bet you they know
recommendation
who
of
else we can
more
get some feedback
contacts.
from.
You look at the 3 people online right now.
Mhm.
Also have Brenda.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Is anyone interested in making a motion here?
I could try.
Okay, give it a shot, Councilmember Pulver.
So I motion that we kick off this new website design contract. And the first thing is to understand who is using it by contacting the citizens. So once we learn that, then that would continue on to the next step, which would be coming back to council and saying, yes, we're approving this. I
Could
don't know
we,
what that is.
could we do that based upon no substantial negative feedback instead of having them come back?
Prior approval. Yeah.
That we just trust that if there's negative feedback, they'll let us know. Otherwise, we
Yes.
sign the contract and move forward. Could we?
Yes, that,
Look at that.
I changed my motion to what you just said.
Okay, perfect. Do we have a second to what, did you, and the payment method?
Option 1.
Okay. Do we have a second to the what he said motion?
Second.
Thank you,
What he said.
Councilmember, to what he said. All right, great. Are there any questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, then all in favor of the motion of Councilmember Pulver, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? We're going to count that as the motion passing unanimously. Let's go to item number 8, if we could. This is the discussion led by our city manager and attorney, Mr. John Call. He's going to discuss with us an action to approve the local transportation funding agreement in regards to agreement A4-2024. This is relating to the next phase of 450 East up to 3100 North. Mr. Call.
Thank you, Mayor. So, council, as per usual, on our staff reports for agreements, they're short and simple. The point being that we'd like you to read the agreement and not a lot of words from me. But just some big highlights are that the total expected project cost for this project, and this is widening 450 East from just above 2850, so I call it 2900, up to the intersection at 3100 and 450 East. The total project cost is about $6.7 million. This funding agreement would get money from WACOG to the tune of basically $4 million, meaning that the city would have to come up with $2.7 million, give or take a few dollars here and there. The majority of that money, and I tried to put this in a really fancy PowerPoint, and I just hated the way it looked. But the majority of that money comes from 3 sources. One is impact fee dollars, where we have about $2.2 million currently. And these are the fees that new homes pay when they build their homes to buy into our street system and help to expand the roads to accommodate the additional burden that each home puts on the roadways. There's also some money available, about $750,000 from the rent that we have received from properties along for the current alignment of 450 East. And I'm going to show you my computer screen. And it's a little, I'm going to zoom in on the different areas, but all these homes on this east side or west side of 450 East, the city owns, and we currently rent to various individuals through a property management company, and one we just rent ourselves. But the amount of money we've collected since we bought those properties to date is about $750,000. And so that money, through an agreement, a prior agreement with Weber County, we are allowed to put back into the project as construction money. In addition to when the road comes through and those 9 homes have to be demolished, we can resell the property and put that money back into the construction. Essentially, that would be as a reimbursement. But in theory, the county has really given us about, for this section related to this only, about, if my math's right, $5.5 million. And then there's also, in addition to that, the money they gave us to purchase the right of way in the first place. So these homes were built or were purchased with WACOG dollars. I think 90% of the money came from WACOG, 92 actually, but they gave us about $3.5 million to buy all the homes that we purchased. There's a couple to the south that we purchased as well at 2850. And the front yards of the homes on the east side of 450 below 2850. So we bought quite a bit of property as you go from 2600 up to 3100, but total project or total money to the city for this project is somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 million from 2600 to here from WACOG. There's also some WFRC funds that came in. Long story short, we're asking for this last round of funding, this $4 million, to get approved by the council through the approval of this agreement. And it will turn 450 East, that same width that's below, a 5-lane road, 2 travel lanes each direction, and then a center turn pocket with bike lanes all the way up to 3100, and do some reconfiguring at the intersection itself. So it's really clear. You can kind of see from this design, but I'm going to zoom in really close. And it's a little confusing, but this dotted line over here on the east side is the back of the existing sidewalk or the existing right-of-way line. All of the expansion as currently designed will happen to the west on the properties that the city owns. It doesn't mean that there won't be any negative experiences by the homeowners up there. But the idea is that there shouldn't be any additional property needed or taken from those homeowners on the east side. It'll just be the homes that we purchased outright on the west side. What questions?
John, I think the county has been extremely supportive of this. I believe also they are allowing us, we have the money on the second parcel down behind Nielsen's Custard too, that I think they've allowed us to use for this project if necessary. Plus, they've been very supportive, and I want to give the county some credit on this because initially they weren't going to let us keep the rent money. They talked about keeping that. And also they're allowing us to resell that property. So this is, I think, something the county is very supportive of. They came out, they did an inspection of the property on the project, and they're very supportive of this. I think the message on this is if you don't ask, you can't say yes.
And I should mention that Eric Casperson, our in-house engineer, did most of the work on getting this grant, along with the mayor and others who participated in the negotiating side, but normally the request from them is about 8% match. But asking for $6 million it would have almost wiped out the entire fund. And so we increased our contribution to get the additional $4 million down to, it's about a 30-60, 30-70 split. And so it's been really good. And the county has been very supportive and very, very good partners on our transportation projects.
So I would recommend council that, based upon Mr. Call's analysis, the availability of the funds that should be restricted, John, for that project, make sure that we have them and we don't put a burden on a future council. I would recommend, council, after any questions you have, that we approve agreement A4-2024. Councilmember Pulver.
So question, I think it was in there someplace that once the road is finished, that those properties that the houses were on can be resold. I guess that was the question.
Yeah.
Some seem smaller.
Yeah, they can be resold as long as I think they're
A certain
buildable,
size.
appropriate lots, and we can use that to reimburse ourselves towards the project.
Okay.
And John, I don't know if we estimate how much that would be.
It ends up being my estimate that is what there'll be about 6 lots at about 150 a piece based on current prices. So another 750 available. Could be less though, depending on the configuration.
That in the agreement.
It's not in the agreement before the council. It's in the previous agreement that talks about the resale of properties.
Councilmember Dalpaz.
The property at 2850 in Washington that we still need to sell, it's hard to know if it's going to, it most likely will appreciate in the next couple of years, but no one knows for sure. Do we have a recommendation from staff, or do we want to talk about if it makes sense to sell it now or later? We've kind of gone with a later approach, it seems like, but just wondering if there's any benefit to selling it sooner than later, just throwing it out there.
So we've been doing some light researching on selling it now, just trying to get a good price. We have at least 2 interested people who've approached the city and said, hey, when you have a price, call us. We're interested. It is a funny, skinny little piece of property, but the hardest decision the council is probably going to weigh in on that is that it is most likely going to, whoever purchased that property will ask for a rezone with that property saying, hey, give me the same twin home designation that's just north of here. And I would anticipate on the rest of this frontage that could be a discussion with anyone who buys or wants to buy this. Is they might say, hey, let me buy the entire piece if you'll rezone it as a basically a duplex zone, an R2 zone. And, so the council will have to weigh that. We have made not promises to the neighbors that live behind this area, but we've indicated that we will inform them when the city's ready to sell so that they can be involved in the discussion. In particular, this lot right here, this 3079 North, goes all the way back to this point. And so there's not much beneficial use to the frontage here, but these neighbors around it have expressed some interest in maybe buying a piece of that as part of the process.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we have a motion on the table, I believe, or do we have a motion? It's been so long, I forgot. Okay, do we have a
Actually,
motion?
Ryan wants to.
Okay, Ryan.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve agreement A4-2024 for the next phase of 450 East and 3100 North.
Okay, do we have a second to Councilmember Barker's motion?
second that.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Any further questions? This being an agreement that you're authorizing to be signed on behalf of the city, we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with you, Councilmember Dalpaz, and just work this way.
Yes.
Councilmember Severing.
Yes.
Councilmember Pulver.
Yes.
Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 9, which is departmental reports. Councilmember Dalpaz, let's start with you.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, couple updates that I received from Chief Quinney. Of course, we are in the middle of conducting the chief interviews right now. And we've come up with some really great candidates and have some further interviews scheduled for this next week. And Chief Quinney wanted to let everyone know that they are hosting a TASER instructor certification course tomorrow. And so he's going to be hosting many more trainings in this new facility. So the facility has lent itself to be really well for what they need for their training needs. The department has recently conducted its annual state mandated defensive tactics and arrest control techniques training, and that was done last week. And this is probably one of the more exciting announcements, is that we have 2 new officers that are patrolling our streets. Their names are Officer Tischer and Officer Moss. And also Officer Desmond Perkins has been promoted to detective. So always exciting updates that are coming from the police department. Last but not least, I gave this update last month, but it is coming up soon, is that there is a drug take-back event that is happening on Saturday, April 27th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at North Ogden Smiths. And, I said last but not least, North Ogden has jumped 4 spots for safest city in Utah. So we were listed as the 10th safest city as of last year. And as of this year, we are listed as the 6th safest. So that's kind of cool. And we're the only city in Weber County that is on that list.
Thank you, Councilmember Dalpas. Councilmember Severing, do you have something you'd like to share with us?
I sure do. Thank you, Mayor. So Scott and Nate, Scott wanted me to mention that White Rock Phase 3 has been approved and they'll begin construction soon there. Scott Hess and Ryan Nunn will be in the Bahamas this next week at a planning conference. Okay,
Close.
Minneapolis. It's kind of close, right? Okay, all right. Nate and Scott both indicated that, and this was mentioned earlier, we actually have had more building permits come in. And several of them have been applied for in the Montgomery Farm subdivision. So that's what's going on in planning and building.
Thank you, Councilmember Severing. Councilmember Barker?
Yep. So Jamie messaged me, said demolition of the playground at Lowman View is complete and they're prepping the pad for the new playground. Construction is going to begin soon as scheduled for May. And then in correlation, even though this is a public works project, the pickleball courts will be completed in May-ish. And that's an Eric Casperson project, but to give him credit. And then further, they're mowing. They're starting turf maintenance, spraying for weeds, fertilizing. They're opening bathrooms next week, and they have seasonal applications, and they're starting to interview. So if you want a part-time job.
So springtime may really come, huh?
In theory.
Okay, it is theoretical. All right, anything else you'd like to add on your reports, council? All right, we'll move on to item number 10, which is public comments. Once again, for those of you who may want to join either online or here in person, please state your name if you're a resident of North Ogden, and please limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes.
My name is Merrill Sunderland. I'm a resident of North Ogden. And it's impressive to watch the mayor and city council working. First of all, I will put that on record. On the subject of the city website, because of the interesting way that motion was made, I'm not really even sure whether your intent is to keep and upgrade the website or to go with a new and different website. I'm guessing it was to go with a new and different website with some things still to be decided. So by way of information, when that takes place, when you start moving from what the present status is on the present city website and move to a different one, there will be a lot of trouble, confusion, and trying and backing out and trying again. That's to be expected and anticipated. And so I have a recommendation that there needs to be someone who will oversee it. Now, surprising enough, it seems like the mayor already mentioned that, but my understanding is there are different people in different departments who are in charge of their part of the website. So that sounds like when the changes take place and the trouble, confusion, and trying and trying again, it sounds like there might be a committee involved in trying to decide how to make that work. So my recommendation is there needs to be someone who is someone in the city who is the one that gets put in that hot seat until that's completed. Thank you.
Okay.
Evening, Council. Philip Swanson, North Ogden City. Couple of things. First of all, regarding the budget, it's good to see that there's continued sensitivity from the departments to find opportunities for efficiency. Appreciate the frugality that the departments are showing. I'm pleased to see the council continuing to support training and travel where it's necessary. We want our employees to be the smartest and the best out there. And that training and travel is a big part of that. I'm happy to see the support that's being made from the efforts to up morale that's being made from the HR department. And then lastly, regarding the budget on flash vote, we've only used it once as a city and we're paying for it. So one of the things from the budget committee is let's either use it or let's dump it. If we're not going to use it, let's not pay for it. Regarding the new webpage, I just got the web pages this afternoon to look at, so I haven't had a chance to go through them super thoroughly from the other cities, but some thoughts that came to mind regarding the new web page is that we need to include less technically savvy residents on the design and the beta testing. It's really easy for those of us that frequent websites to learn how to navigate poorly designed websites. It's another thing though there were several out there, and I'll get the ones that I really liked over to Ryan, but there were several that were just very intuitive, very easy, not too much information, easy on the eyes. And the navigation was pretty easy. Again, to emphasize the importance of citizen input as we design this web page, because we're the ones that are going to be using it primarily. And the last comment on the web page is that the search bar on a web page should never be the primary navigation device on a web page. You should be able to find where information is and get to it without having to use that search bar. And then last but not least, your microphones work a whole lot better if you drop them below chin level and closer to the counter, because sound tends to fall. And when the microphones are up high, it's very hard for us to hear you, especially if you're leaning back in your chair. So if you'll extend those mics, bring them down like Councilmember Barker just did, you'll find that we can hear you a whole lot better, or you can just lean really closely into it. Thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Anyone else? Brenda?
Brenda Ashdown. I live in North Ogden. If you're talking about the website, I'm going to have an opinion. I looked through the web pages today. There was some specific ones that I requested, but overall, any of them look so much user friendlier than ours. Ours, I don't think ever has been. I'm glad that you agreed to go with this new company. It makes sense. It's going to be cheaper to begin with, but they look nice. I'm sure that Ryan can give you a list of the ones that she sent to me today, and they all look so much better than ours and so much it's just better. I just really appreciate that you're willing to make that change. I disagree a little bit with Mr. Sunderland. I don't think there will be a problem changing the website, because I think it just will be so much easier to see and to be able to go forward. There's something else I was going to say that Phil said, but I can't remember now. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have a hand raised online, John.
Yes, Susan Clemens.
Susan, can you?
Good evening. It's good to see you online. I used to come to the meetings a lot, and I know you're all missing me very much, but where I'm involved with the North Ogden Historical Museum from 3 until 6 in the evening, it's a little hard to come and sit through your meeting also. So I'm sitting here in my nice office chair, and I can see all of you, including John and the mayor. It's really great to watch it this way. Your new digs are really nice. You sound good. I can hear you very well. A little bit of suggestion would be those who are maybe in the audience and are saying something, or someone who is not at the microphone, it's really hard to hear what they're saying. I'm very happy to hear about the construction from 2850 to 3100. Do we have a timetable for that?
I think the funds are allocated us in 2026.
Okay, so the construction will probably be taking place next year, correct? And not this year. Well, let's say 2 years. 2 years.
Yeah.
There will be some
design,
our mayor and council, there'll be some design work that'll start that will bring us some budget requests in this budget where you're approving in this next couple of months.
Okay, great. Also, I don't know if you let everybody know that the green waste is open, or maybe it's just me that was clueless and had to go to the website and hunt to find out when the green waste was going to open. But it's open. We've taken advantage of it, and thank you. We love the green waste. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Susan.
We have one more online.
Okay, let's hear from Susan Kilborn.
Susan number 2. First of all, I have a question for you guys. Is there anyone on the city that is well-versed on AI and how it can be helpful for a lot of different things? I know people have, well, an opinion that it's just a negative thing, but I can guarantee you it's not. I just wondered if there is anybody.
I don't think we've specifically identified anyone right now, Susan, but good point.
I just happen to have a very brilliant son who actually does a weekly newsletter and has for over a year now. He's got like, I think 200,000 plus subscribers to it, and he is easily bribed by mom's cooking. And I can see things that AI could be helpful in streamlining some things that probably are beyond even my realm, obviously, just as a citizen. But I want you to think about that. And then I also had a comment that all of the poster requirements that the city would need to have, those are all available from OSHA, State Labor Commission, ADA, Department of Labor. Those are all available free. So if you're paying $75 for a glossy embossed one, there's $75 you can put in your pocket for something else. And it's nice to see all your bright, shiny faces. John, look up and smile. There you go. Now I'm happy. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't see anyone online with their hand raised, so we'll move on to our next agenda item. Any staff comments this evening? Ryan, Bryce, Scott, Dave, John?
Yep.
We did apply to change our domain name from northogdencity.com to northogdencity.gov. So hopefully that will be taking change or going into effect in the next couple months. So that'll
Okay.
be the website, emails, everything like that will change.
Okay.
And we will keep ownership of the .com and it will automatically forward to the .gov.
Okay, good. John, you have anything?
I do. There's some exciting things that the state legislature is pushing on us this year.
Sweet.
So I just wanted to bring up one. Jamie texted me about it. She's in her finance, the Utah Finance Directors Association meeting. Senate Bill 91 now requires the council to hold a separate budget hearing on the officers' salaries in the city, which shows the increase in compensation. So that'll be basically the department heads. So there will be a hearing on the department heads with their old salary compared to their new salary. And just, it'd be good for you to read up on that law. It's going to feel a little weird. It'll be a little awkward. And in particular, it'll be awkward for the department heads and those who don't usually have their salary talked about in public. But we understand it's all in the eye of transparency. That information's all available online. I think the reason this law passed is there was an entity where an official at a city, I'm not sure who or which city, received a substantial bonus as part of some performance package. And some people didn't feel like it was adequately disclosed in the process, but counties and cities now have to do it.
Which bill was that?
Each bill or?
91.
Senate Bill 91.
Senate.
Yeah. Bruce's retirement party is on Thursday. I know you've all seen that, but just as a reminder, Thursday afternoon at 2 to 4. And it come anytime during that time period. I believe there'll be a lot of people there. Most of the city employees usually show up right at the beginning. I think that's when the best food is available. But we've invited contractors and just everyone he's worked with for years and years. He's been so good at the city, and it's fun. It's fun that he can be doing this, but we're really, really going to miss him. So please help us say goodbye to him. The parking lot should be completed in 2.5 weeks. And so pretty soon people will be able to park right next to the building. And you might have seen it, but the senior center is getting a new roof. A good chunk of that is being paid for by an insurance claim because the roof failed prior to when it should have. But there will be a little bit of city money coming out of the just the general building maintenance fund to cover that. But they're tearing, it's all dried in now today. So, but if you would have seen it this afternoon, there was quite a few holes in some of the spots where the decking had rotted because the water goes places it shouldn't. So that's everything I've got.
Thank you. Council, any comments? Councilmember Pulver?
Just that I fired the first salvo about the protocol for events to John, so that's still in work.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilmember Barker, or I'm sorry.
Go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Returning reporting. So last week we were asked to do a FEMA training as a council. Do we want to hold a training where we get certifications or just a training? Because that's two different presentations.
I think training. I think you're going to be our certified cert.
This is not cert training.
Whatever it is, FEMA. I think.
Because Lisa Schwartz Gosling said she could come and do just a normal training and it'd be like a 1-hour session. Or if we want the certification, then we'd have to get 2 emergency managers from You probably know, maybe, or Casey would know, from Box Elder County or Cache would come down. But that'd be a 2-week session, so. Oh, you said no? Let's get that on record.
1 hour is good.
Oh,
Okay,
okay,
Okay.
I'll set up with Lisa.
thank you. Councilmember Severing.
Yeah, I'm just, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to mention, John, are we anywhere with the prescriptive easement?
So there's a meeting 2 weeks from tomorrow. It would have been next week, except as you know, a lot of us are out of town. And so it's in 2 weeks. And there's more than just that we're talking with them about, but we are starting that along.
Awesome. And then I actually had a mom reach out to me. Can I just read to you what she texted me? I'm just going to read it. She says, "Hey, Blake, I just wanted to let you know that it looks like the secret is out about the increased cost at North Shore Pool. Everyone is speculating. Her choice of words, not necessarily mine. Everyone is speculating it's Biden's fault to raise the price. But I think it would behoove the city attorney or someone with authority to put out a reason why the price increase. Just a thought, because I don't want my son who works there getting ripped by people when he answers the phone because the price is increased and they don't know the true reason why there's a price increase." So I'm just passing on what was texted to me.
Okay, that's a great idea.
Okay, any other comments?
Nope.
Seeing none, I have no further comments. So I'd look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
She's not here.
Motion